Welcome to Big Ideas, the podcast where three co hosts rotate roles to explore real conversations, meaningful ideas, and the decisions that shape our lives. I'm Jessica Broadway, co host here and host of the Jessica Broadway podcast. And I am a deep thinker who loves curious conversations about life and the lessons that we're learning. And I am joined by my two co hosts here today. Gentlemen, I'm going to kick it to you.
Age? Are you going with age before beauty? That's what that was, Justin. You were being polite.
No,
I'll
no,
take
no.
that. I'll take any respect that you're willing to give me on any level. So
Wow,
thank you.
wow, wow.
Um,
You took it there. Yeah. Well,
I'm
I
Mark.
do respect my elders,
All
so I
right,
guess
boys, let's get on with
Mark,
the intros.
Mark Steiner. I'm a dreamer of dreams, and a dream realizer because I've created, been a founder of Gig Salad. It's an online event marketplace, and we give people the chance to do what they love, and we're a part of people's most special memories. So dreams across the board, and I'm checking in with you here from Toronto, one of my favorite cities in the world. I love it here so much. I've been having a time of my life this week doing all sorts of fun stuff, guys. So
your
Love
POV is
that.
Toronto.
my POV is Toronto.
Dude, you've been traveling a lot lately. You're so cool, man. You
Thank you.
motivating me a lot.
Such a cool
Well,
cat.
It's not
I'm Justin
Russian.
Gabassi. I'm a human optimization coach because I've been obsessed with figuring out ways to strive in life in spite of the curveballs that life can throw at you, physically, mentally, emotionally. And that pursuit has taken me into music as a professional touring musician. It's taken me into acting and modeling and some co-authoring with my dear friend Jessica Broadway and this Perfect Day thing we've done and this co-host role on Big Ideas. So my obsession to figure out how to live a happier, healthier life has taken me into a bunch of different paths that I get to enjoy all at once. And now I get to talk with you guys about something cool that Jessica's about to tell us about.
I am, and I just had this fleeting thought just now that it's a shame that Mark has not co authored any kind of book with us, and I think we should do that.
Thank you. I was waiting for an invitation.
You know, I can see it now. Big ideas. A conversation about the decisions that shape our lives. Let's get curious.
Wow,
And
Ooh.
I
we
like
could
it.
do like, 3 to 5 lessons each that really shaped our lives and how it played out for us. I don't know. That's just a really cool thought that I just had when you said
Well,
that. So,
it's the seed's been planted, and our huge, gigantic audience is now expecting it. We're going to sell a lot of books, so stand by, folks.
it's happening. It has to, honestly.
That's
Well,
it.
now you called us out to the whole planet, so I guess it
Yeah.
does have to.
Well, it actually teed me up fairly well for the conversation I wanted to have with you guys today. I'm going through an identity shift. At 44, I'll tell you what, I am recalibrating myself in a couple of different areas. And the work that I do is really centered around helping people, reclaim their agency and not be jerked around by life, right? And to be able to move with intention throughout the things. And occasionally I get to practice these tools for myself. And I get to have deep conversations with myself about what does it look like to recalibrate at different seasons. And I hear people say that, like, I'm just trying to figure out who I am or who I want to be when I grow up. And that is really a shame that we think we have to arrive and stay somewhere because life is about becoming and accepting who you are in the moment and being present while preparing for the future, right? And there should be some things that we really understand about identity I think are important for this conversation and shaping how we might have it. And when you're forming your identity, it's not just like one facet. it's multiple things that contribute to how you picture yourself and how you identify in the world. And we've done an episode before about labels, and it got like kind of nuanced and like, why do we judge people and things like that. And I highly recommend people going back and listening to that episode if you're curious about how that played out. But labels kind of, they're necessary. Just understand that when someone tells you that, that is them signaling to you that I have allowed this title or this label to signal my identity. This is part of who I show up as, right? And so identity shapes in 3 areas. Mostly the who you are is like, how would I describe myself to you guys? Like today I would say, well, I have short hair and it's highlighted, I have blue eyes. So my physical attributes, how I would describe those. But then also I might describe myself as I am a deep thinker. I'm very curious and creative about things, right? And then I might also use the roles that I play to identify myself to you and describe myself to you as a mom of 3 boys, a wife, a daughter, right? But then there's this other category of the whose you are. Who do you belong to? That is answering 2 questions. Where do I get my sense of community from? And then how do I explain my existential existence here on earth and the purpose of why I'm here? So what are my root systems anchored in? And if any of those categories, so the whose you are starts with your family of origin, who's your roots, where did you come from? Are you adopted like you, Mark? Or do you come from a split family in divorce like you did, shared Justin on different episodes? That is how it affects how you see yourself and how you identify yourself. And then how do you answer the question of how did you get here? Do you have a belief system that explains that for you? Do you have a scientific explanation for that? What is that piece that says, here's the purpose of me and how I exist in the world? These are important conversations to have. And when loss affects those or disrupts it, right? So if anything enters that conversation, you're going to have to recalibrate who you are. And this is where people have like hills they'll die on. And you're like, I don't know why you're going to die on that hill. It's not that big of a deal. It is to them, because you're literally asking them to recalibrate a piece of themselves, and they may not know how to do that. And if you're paying attention to life and you're engaged in life, there are seasons that are going to offer you opportunities to recalibrate and to be like, oh, I'm feeling a tension. I'm feeling like this is the hill I want to die on. Could it be that I'm being offered an opportunity to recalibrate my identity and then figure out what area that's coming from? So moms go through that a lot when our kids are growing and changing and evolving. I got a kid that's halfway out the door. He's a senior this year. And so I'm going to be like, well, I have 2 kids at home and 1 away, right? And he recently enlisted in the military. So now I'm adding an Army mom to the descriptors of who I am and part of that role. And I'm having to learn a whole new world of how to navigate those conversations, how to support what I'm allowed to do, what I'm not allowed to do. It's causing me to have to recalibrate how I operate in the world. And so it begged the question for me, what if we weren't allowed to say, like, I have ADHD, or I have autism, or I have this, or I'm quirky? Like, how would you describe yourself if you couldn't use any labels? And what do you think are the things that you tuck away and don't want to tell people because you're afraid that that might challenge your sense of belonging, that part of your identity? Do you feel like you might get rejected if people really knew who you were? Is there a level of you that masks? I just thought this would be since I'm recalibrating, I'm opening the floodgates and allowing maybe some new things to shine that I maybe once didn't have out. Everything's on the table to be reorganized at this point. So I'm doing a whole makeover.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel I'm in the same boat, and it's one thing that came to mind when you were talking was that's like that whole process you just described is so it's a lot, it takes a lot of awareness and a lot of work. And here's what's crazy about it. What makes it really complicated is then we have, we always say they, whoever they are, right?
Right.
They that drive, whoever makes the decisions that gas prices go up and down or food costs, or like it's the they out there, right? Well, they also have a huge influence, I'm finding even more than I thought since I left the country and came back, on what labels we should be wearing as well. So it's like I'm going through the same process, Jessica. Like I feel like I've taken the entire car apart, and all the parts are like laying around me, and I'm sort of rebuilding the entire thing and trying to figure out where the pieces go and what do I want to build next. And it's like I'm having to spend so much time in silence or away from all the noise. You can't escape the program. You can't escape these opinions. I go to the gym like to have quiet time, and that's kind of my church, right? And there's TVs everywhere, and there's music, and I can stop at the gas station, and somebody's trying to impress their opinion of who I should be, or what I should look like, or what I should buy, or what I should wear, what I should drive. And I'm like, okay, I got to get all that noise away so I can figure out how I'm going to rebuild my own identity. So I'm really glad you brought this up, because I'm in the ring with all this myself as well. And I thought, I kind of already know who I am pretty well. And then I took off for 8 months and was alone a lot of the time. And I'm like, who is this dude? Who does this guy want to be? What does this next chapter want to look like?
Yeah.
I think that's an important factor right there. Questioning, what do I want this next chapter to look like, as opposed to
Yes.
what do I want my ending to look like? Because for the guy who's in the 12 years down the road in terms of age and experience, to you, Justin, even a lot further for you, Jessica, one thing I've learned about labels is, to the best of your ability, you want to avoid them. Because if you get too fixed on this is who I am, and you're planting a flag, um, whatever it is you come to, you really want to ask yourself, is this what I'm claiming for the indefinite future, or is this just who I've become now? Because I can tell you that there's been iterations of myself throughout my life, throughout my 60 years, that 40 years ago, 38 years ago, I was very, very sure of who I was at 22 years old. I had figured so much out. Um, and that person is such a distant past, distant future, a distant past, um, that I don't know if I agree with anything that guy used to think about, other than I want to be a good guy. I want to do my best to get along with folks, and avoid. And what I've discovered is avoiding labels helps me to do that, because you know you might label yourself, and you might get a huge swath of people that agree with you, and yes, that's my label too, and we're together. But then you've also alienated and kept a whole slew of other people outside of you that you might not ever get to discover, because you've already established that this is who I am, and these two labels, they don't really get along. So
Hmm.
you stay over there, we'll stay over here, we'll try to keep peace, kind of thing. And I've not seen it work. Doesn't work in politics, doesn't work in religion. Um, there's so much it just doesn't work in. And so you find a label, you better be super, super sure of yourself and confident that whatever you're leaning into, it's really where you want to be. That's
I think, Justin, you said that you're like, who is this guy? And you were kind of going through that I would call it a recalibration, because I think you knew who you were, and then circumstances invited you into a deeper or a different version of yourself than you'd maybe explored before, or environments had allowed for. And I don't necessarily have a problem with labels in the sense that we avoid them, because I think that helps us signal community. Like be saying like, yeah, I'm willing to raise my hand. Like when you get asked a question in class, it's like, yep, that's me. Like I think that's okay. The problem when it becomes damaging is when it becomes exclusive and we lose the ability to commune with people and to be refined and to be challenged. And so there are different seasons of our lives, as you pointed, Mark, that you're a little bit down the road and you look back at that 40-year-old version of you or the 20-year-old version of you and you're like, whoa, I'm not sure that guy had it figured out like he thought he did. And so I want to honor your space, Justin, of refiguring out who you are. And I want you to share a little bit about what you learned about yourself. But also, I just wanted to pop over to Mark on this one topic because I have a burning question for you. How do you view that version of you at 20 and 40? Even though they're starkly different, are you able to have compassion for that person? Do you have grace? Are you judgmental? And here's why. Quick story. As I was evolving in my search of this, and I was journaling the last 72 hours for me, as this shifting and this happening in this last preparation, I was reminded of, I had this feeling that I wanted to withdraw and process this, deal with this, figure it out, and then show up with the answer after the fact, right? And I realized that that's not helpful because, well, it's just not good for me, and we'll talk about that later, and it's not good for the people around us because they want to be engaged in the process. They want to be invited along. And I was asking myself, why do I feel like that? And I was immediately taken back to this moment when I was probably 13. Makes me a little have feelings about that. And I was doing something in a playful way. I was dancing and pirouetting and doing ballerina stuff, and I was completely oblivious to the fact that there were other people. I mean, I knew there were other people in the room, but it didn't bother me. I wasn't filtered at all. And I was doing some weird facial expression, or it wasn't weird. I was sucking in my cheeks and like making a, dramatic face as I was, if you're not watching the video, I was making like a fish face and dramatically pirouetting through the living room. And there were two adults in the room who started laughing at me. And one of them said, "What is she doing?" And the other one said, "I don't know, probably just being weird." And I didn't feel, it wasn't just embarrassed. I've been embarrassed before, like I fumbled over my words, but there was shame attached to the embarrassment. Like, how did you miss that one? Like, how could you not be, like, how did you not get the memo that you're grown up now and you can't do that stupid stuff anymore? Like that immediately felt shameful to be playful and to be, whimsical. And I felt like I had to force myself to grow up really quickly in that moment. And that anchored for me, and I was like, wow, I need to do some healing there for that little girl that somehow learned that changing or evolving or being different versions of you, that those could be rejected by people. So I've always kind of hedged my bets on how much I share or show because I don't ever want to feel like that girl again. And as I look back in my life, I'm thinking of like, I'm trying to be more compassionate with different versions of me that in retrospect have grown significantly. But yeah, so that was a real revelation that I wanted to bring to the conversation and see like how, when you brought that up, I was like, how are you looking at those people in your life, those versions of you? Are you integrating them and loving them on them? And or is there some shame there for you of how could I have been so naive, or, what has that been like for you?
Yeah, well, in my case, I had, I was, I've had adults that have embarrassed me. I have some very lasting memories of when I was even younger than 13 or whatever you were at the time. And that, I made some bold statement or something of who I was going to be or what I was going to do, and it was just sort of a snicker or like, oh yeah, we'll see, or yeah, hot shot, big shot here is going to go do this or that. And, you know, there's a part of me that's like glad that I had that experience because now I got something to prove. It's a motivation to me. Um, but, but I also want to comment on the people that were really showed me a lot of grace when I was young and dumb and thought I had figured it all out. My parents come to mind immediately. And that when I was 22 years old and thought I was so smart and I was independent, I was living in New York and yada yada. But there were still times I had to reach out to my folks and get help. You know, I couldn't pay the rent or something, and I had to ask for money, or I was so sure I had figured out religion at 22 years old, and I was condemning my parents on their faith. You know, and I had done that to a lot of people. I was so sure, and so to answer your question, Jessica, I look back on those versions of myself and I'm trying to give myself as much grace as others gave me. I'm looking back and saying, "Oh, that was so naive of you, Mark." Or you were, you know, you thought you were so grown up, or you thought you had arrived, or you thought you were so smart and yada yada. And I'm just looking back on it now and saying, be careful in the future. That it's just an opportunity to say, the next time you think you know it all, just you know, question it. Just question a little bit more. And do we have to be so vocal when we feel like we've found something out about ourselves? Can we just live in that space as opposed to talking about it or proselytizing about it? You know, there's a great lesson from Christ when the apostles came to him and said, "Hey, you know, there's people that are claiming to be a part of the tribe. They're saying they're of you. They're saying yada," and he's like, just give it time. You know, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Who knows? But time will tell, and the proof is in the pudding. And that's why, for me, that if I think I am something, I'd rather not have to even claim it. I'd rather just have people
Yeah.
seeing it living and active in me, and um, and then let people decide from that. You know,
Hmm.
that's what it comes down to for me is am I being a good example of what I say that I am or what I'm not? And
Are you consistent? You know.
am I consistent? And when I do blow it, do I own it and say, "Yep, I made a mistake and I'm changing and moving on." Justin, how about you? What do you think you're becoming, or what are you leaving? Which part of yourself are you leaving behind or shedding?
I, you know, I built I kind of have been using this metaphor about water lately. I've been deep in it, listening to some yogis and just, I don't know, different people that talk about, like, if you try to grab water, you know, if you try to grab it, water flows, right? And it still gets all this work done. You know, it cuts canyons and stuff like that just by flowing. And so if you try to grab it, you know, it slips through your fingers. But if you hold your hands open, you can hold it better, right? And so I have built all these systems that really, like, I know where I'm at from a ethical and moral standpoint. I have some strong North Stars that way, but there's been the systems I've built to for what I think to survive and thrive. In my youth, it was to try to develop safety nets for myself that maybe I didn't feel were there for me personally. And so it made me rigid. It's made me rigid. And, you know, it was funny when I was in Thailand, I had several locals keep asking me if I was in the military. I had my hair cut a little shorter, but just the way I carry myself apparently is like rigid. And I'm at one point on this island, and everyone's like really chill. And I was like, why am I not chill? And it's because I had this structure was my safety, and the structure was an illusion, really, because the structure got wiped away a lot of the time when I was in my travels. Like there just weren't the controls in place. And so what I'm really working toward right now is there was a day I was on the beach, I was having breakfast, and this guy, I posted about it, it's in my Instagram somewhere, but this guy was drinking his coffee and he had earbuds in and he was just dancing. He was dancing to whatever music he was playing and drinking his coffee, and there was people around and he didn't care at all. And I was like, that's it. That's the ticket right there. That guy is genuinely having a good time in life. And right now what I'm trying to do is figure out, how do I flow better? How do I, be more in my authenticity and less rigid? And that's what I'm trying to figure out, man, right now. And it does have to do with maybe eliminating some labels and maybe optimize. For me, like the optimization, also the structure. It's like, how do I keep structure in the sense that I'm maintaining, like you have to. So for me, it's like I have to work. I need to keep some rigidity or at least some grit, so that I can get my butt to the gym and do things like succeed, like show up on time to this podcast recording, right? And so there's the structure, but then how do I flow in and out of it as well? Mm-hmm. And that's really the jam I'm trying to figure out. And like being more myself, I've been so performative most of my life, like literally and figuratively, as all the things I mentioned at the beginning, when the introductions, the actor, the model, the musician, the human optimization coach. I'm like, yeah, that's great, man. But like, who is this dude when he's not like wearing all these hats? And, I kind of mentioned to you guys before the call. It's like, I need you guys to be a sounding board as well, because two of my best friends, and yeah, man, I'm just trying to enjoy life more and stop being so rigid. And it's a scary thing, because as you lean into more authenticity and more truth and finding more truth with yourself, it's like you risk those experiences like Jessica that you mentioned, I mean, the guy on the beach, he didn't care. There's times like in the gym, I want to bust out anywhere, like bust out and dance. But we have all these social constructs and all this judgment that everybody's on each other's butt so much about stuff all the time. It's like, one thing I discovered out there is live and let live, man. You know what I mean? Live and let live. And I just want to live. I want to bring value to the planet, and I want to be me. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm sorting out right now. And it's a hell of a thing to sort out.
I have a question for you, Justin.
Okay.
How many people in your lifetime do you think you've observed drinking a cup of coffee?
That's a great question, man. The only one that comes to mind is the one that I just mentioned.
Yeah. And I would bet you that you've probably sat down with hundreds of people in your lifetime for a cup of coffee, let alone seen somebody drinking a cup of coffee. But this guy you're talking about, a year later, whatever it is, one guy has stood out in your lifetime as he was drinking a cup of coffee, but he was doing so much more. He was living while he was drinking that coffee.
Exactly,
He's
man.
appearing to be enjoying his life, and I'll take that guy. I want to hang with that guy.
Me too.
I want what that guy's got.
Same.
And I think that's and when you're making those observations, Justin, that's how we're forming, when we form our lives, when we're creating our lives, when we're constructing our lives, and we get inspiration from others, which is how it always happens anyway. We'd look at somebody and we'd say, yeah, I'd like a lot of what right there, if I could be that person. And sometimes it's just, oh, I don't know that person well enough, but I'd like a little bit of that. That's beautiful. So, well, based on that, if that's the sort of people you're looking at, Justin, and saying, I want to be more like that, then I applaud the man that you're becoming, because I think that's
Thanks,
a good
man.
guy. Yeah.
I could totally picture that guy, and I don't even know, I don't even remember what the picture looks like, but I could picture whatever that guy was doing, I could picture it. And I had a experience recently where I was traveling. I think I told you about this, Justin, whenever we were in Reno together. But I literally was trying to retrain myself to have more, like, if I want to take a picture, I want to take a picture. Like, I'm not going to care what people judge, and I encouraged myself to walk around the airport with my camera open, like filming myself. And the dialogue, like you said, Mark, that those constructs of like, who does she think she is? Or what is she doing? She's weird, like all of those things. And then I thought of a similar situation, like with the coffee guy. I thought to myself, well, what if I'm the only entertainment they get today? Or what if I'm the only thing that makes them laugh today? Or what if they saw me and then they were emboldened, like, man, good for her. Like, would it be worth the little bit of discomfort that I have? And like, that's the truth, right? Is we're all looking for permission to live out loud in some form or another. We're all looking for, if I stretch myself, if I step out, will my community catch me? Will I still belong somewhere? And I think that the bolder we live and the more emboldened we become to say, this is who I am. I'm more than a label. I have a unique talent of being able to wash, dry, and lose a shirt before I wear it. So, there's that. When we start talking about the cool little things that make us us, I think that is really the goal, or that's how I want to live anyway. I want to, because as soon as I say that I'm like you said, Mark, labels or whatever, but as soon as you do something, someone's going to have a problem with it. And really is, can I live with myself at the end of the day? Can I go to sleep at night knowing that I lived my purpose and I lived passionately and I didn't take any moments for granted, that I was allowed myself to be in the moment. And I'd like to see a video of you in the future dancing through Snap Fitness, honestly, to your headphones.
So,
Dance, make yourself a challenge to dance in between equipment. So, like, if you got to go to the chest press, to the leg machine, I want you to do a little hop, skip, and a dance on the way over.
okay, challenge accepted. Not sure if I'm quite there yet, but I hear you, and I will set that as a goal. I've watched that video so many times, and anybody listening, I mean, feel free to go to my Instagram, and this guy, I don't know, it's down a ways when I was in Thailand, and it's really obvious. He's got his shirt off, he's holding his cup of coffee out, and I put some music to the video that I thought, this is probably something like he's listening to. And thing I want to also say, Mark, you brought up a really good point about, well, both of you have talked about like self-judgment and the judgment of others. And, I've talked about this, I think, on previous podcasts, but I didn't really fit into any specific clique in school because I was a band guy. So, my label there was band nerd. I was an intellect, so I was labeled nerd, book nerd. And then I was a music, I was also a jock. So, I didn't really fit in any specific clique. So I was able to get along with everyone. I kind of just could be friends with everyone and it was okay, right? And that has served me so well, and I've continued to I see you're being in cliques when you're a kid is like one thing, right? And labeling and stuff, and you tend to gravitate towards certain groups perhaps, but I've noticed a lot of people continue with that path throughout their life. And I mean, I'm just here to mention to the listeners, like, you are blocking yourself from so many opportunities and so much potential. I'm talking financially, professionally, relationship-wise, happiness. It's just astounding, and whether it's somebody of a different political view or how they engage in relationships or whatever the case might be, it's like I would just invite everyone to sort of work here, like I'm pointing inward at myself, like do the work here and Jessica, you mentioned don't be too judgmental. You kind of asked Mark, was he being too judgmental? Like watch the self-shaming and such, but work here and allow other people to live and have conversations and have opinions. And when I was on my travels, this was a big thing. Like, I'm in somebody else's land. I'm on somebody else's in their country, and so it's like you got to be careful about having too many opinions, right? And there was opinions about me as well, and you're just really blocking yourself from a whole world of potential if you're shunning other people too heavily and judging other people too heavily. And realizing too that we're all in this crazy soup of all this noise that's coming in too, right? Telling you what to believe and how you should judge and what people should be. That's all crap, right? You get to decide for yourself what you want to believe and how you want to engage with other people. You don't have to listen to the great opinions of others, whoever they are,
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Um, there's so much nuance to names anymore. I think it used to be easier to claim I'm of this political party, and people immediately knew, oh, okay, that meant one thing. I'm of a particular faith. Oh, okay, that's one thing. But in this day and age, you make a claim that if you say I'm Republican or I'm a Democrat, what does that even mean anymore? There is
Hmm.
so much variation in any one of those that if you want to call yourself that, that's what you want to identify with. You want to that's what you want to be known as. A you want to be a part of and aligned with a certain political party. I don't know. That just seems to me to be um, short-sighted. Because
Hmm.
which part? Does that mean that anything that anybody else who says that they're a part of that party says or believes is what you're identifying with? You're going to allow that many other people speak on your behalf and say this is who you are because you've already said it. I'm this. Same thing with religion. Of all the denominations just within the Christian faith, like I, we're in the belt buckle of the Bible Belt in the old Ozarks.
Hmm.
And I've seen more churches bashing other churches of the same faith. We believe in Jesus Christ, and yet the um, interpretation of what that means, all the various interpretations of the Bible and what that means to one person, let alone one entire church. And you're going to say that this is me. Ask anybody else who says this is me, and it's safe. Whatever they say, that's what I believe. I can't do it anymore, and I used to do it, and I'm embarrassed by it, and yet I've given myself grace for being young and dumb, and so badly wanting to be a part of a group, because that's really what this is about. Often for me, you reference being a kid or being a part of a clique. It was just exciting to be a part of a group, to be accepted into a group. And I'm just not sure anymore. If a group wants to let me in and I don't have to say, I'm I'm one of you, other than I'm a fellow human and I'm just curious and I want to learn and I want to be friends, but does this have to be the thing that defines us? That's the part that I'm trying to stay away from as I get older and older. Is just like, no. I'm just here. I'm an observer. Yes, sometimes I'm going to participate and do this or that, but it all needs to be in the name of good and love, peace. These are the things that I'm trying to label myself in. And if I put that out there, if I say that's what I claim, or that's what I'm stating, or that's what I want to be, that's when I'm inviting others to say, go ahead and hold me accountable to those things. Have I been loving with you? Um, have I been a peacemaker? And if I've not been those things, please be the first one to tell me. Give me the opportunity. Come up to me and do it in a, hopefully do it in a graceful way of just saying, hey, you say this, but did you in fact do that? Are you in fact being that? And in which case, yeah, let's have that conversation. And if I need to apologize and do better. So yeah, Gilda Radner, when she had cancer, she said, "I am now a part of the club that I wished I wasn't." You know, I wish, or was it Milton Berle? Some old comedian said, "I wouldn't want to be a part of any club that would have me. I wouldn't want to be a part of any club that would accept me." That's kind of how I think I want to be. It's because the moment you give others that agency to speak on your behalf and say, "Oh yeah, that's what Mark thinks or believes," you're in a tough place. That's how I see it.
It's such a different dynamic and another layer to unpack of what can we boldly declare, what we can't, what we, like, I think that grace to be present and becoming is a duality that we would do well to embrace, and to understand that I am where I am based on the lived experiences that I've had so far. And
Right.
I am showing up to the best of my ability with intention, with healing, with creativity, with just I am present in the moment. Not letting the past jerk me around, and I'm for sure not living held back or in withdrawn from the future. Right? I'm not going to live in hesitation, but I'm going to act with determination as though today is all I've got. Right? And be the best version of you, or the most fulfilled version of you and expressed version of you as you can be today, while holding this idea that that's going to shift and change with what life throws at you, because we don't know what's coming down the road, but we have to be willing and adaptable to say, I'm yielding, I'm going to recalibrate how I see myself and how I show up, and this season is going to require a different skill set than I'm used to, or a different idea, or I've been introduced to something, or I've learned more. I used to be just like so grounded in the fact that like I knew, like you brought up spirituality and faith, and that was a very deep conviction for me that I thought would never change. And while my belief in God has never changed, the way that the community and the things and the ideas, those have evolved throughout my life experience, because my faith has called me deeper into deeper waters at different seasons, that I've had to wrestle with things that I would never have gotten to that depth had I been so rigid or been rejecting of the hard questions that made me say, I don't know if we believe it like this anymore. Like, what does that look like? Or not the belief in God, but the application or the lived out experience of the faith. Like, what does that look like? And that part has shaped me based on, I grew up in mission fields in Scotland. Just moving to the United States meant that we did things differently because we were in a different culture. So that fluidity of being able to grow and show up for what season you're in, it's important. It's such a gentle space of having some solid things you can stand on, and some things that you're just like, yeah, no, that's probably going to change.
You know what I think this whole thing is about, at least for me, and I'm going to say a word that a lot of people have died for, and a lot of people have been assassinated or killed for. And to me, this whole game is about freedom. Like the guy on the beach dancing with his coffee,
Yeah.
that guy is free. Emotionally, he's free within himself. And so it takes energy to maintain all these structures. Trust me, I know. And so if you want to know how much, and so really energy is freedom, right? And we're all like so caffeinated up and spun up, and you've got all this noise. And if you think that you're not spending energy, which is freedom, on maintaining these structures and these opinions and all these things, take a deep breath right now. And let go of all of the noise, your mental, emotional, physical body, and realize how much energy you are expending maintaining the structures. And that's what I've been doing for so many years. I've been white knuckling the structures, right? To maintain the good opinion of others and like whatever I'm supposed to be doing. And I don't mean don't hurt other people, don't hurt yourself. That's not what it's about. But for me, this whole jam now and this whole flow thing is about getting more freedom. Like I traveled for 8.5 months around the world because I wanted to experience more freedom. I found out that Justin's got too many damn structures. He needs to chill out on some things, right? And I want more freedom. I want more energy. And so that's a lot about this whole, for me anyway, everything I'm hearing right here, all roads go back to freedom, and having freedom is having your energy, and having your energy for you to channel toward what you want is about relaxing and observing and like figuring out what opinions and structures and things that you want to be involved in. And that's what I'm analyzing right now. Yeah.
I'll piggyback off what you just said with all the mental stuff and give you guys a closing idea, and we'll round this thing out. Your brain thinks. So these are not like tangible thoughts necessarily, but running in the background. About 1,000 to 3,000 words per minute is how you think, right? And then the internal monologue is about 400 to 800 words per minute. So the way you talk to yourself. But if you are journaling and writing things down, it slows thought to 20 to 40 words per minute is the average. So when we're spun up of all these possibilities of who we're becoming, who are we, what were we, all of these things, and the past and the future are fighting to take you out of the present, a really great strategy for me is to kind of write down and affirm the things you do know and the things that you're willing to let go of and the things that you want to stand for and the things that you want to learn more about. What are you curious about? And that slowing down of the thought process and taking a deep breath and just having a minute to be present is a powerful tool that does give us access to freedom. So thanks for having that conversation with me, guys. What are your final takeaways for everybody as you go through, as they think about maybe the version they are and the one that they're becoming in right now today?
I could go. All right, you're gonna get
Go, bro.
again.
I should have directed you. Mark, you go.
I love that we've had this conversation. This is the stuff I love talking about. I love learning from people where they're at, where they think they're going, where they've been, and I come back to I'm really curious what was going on with that guy, because it could have been a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
That could have been the morning that this guy woke up and said, I have been stuck my entire life. Today is the day I'm going out and dancing with my cup of coffee. That might have been the first time that guy's done it.
Might have been.
Right? And going up and asking people like that, hey, what's going on? Tell me about yourself, because whatever it is, it caught my attention, and I liked what I saw. Tell me.
Maybe going up and say, like, how do you do what you do? If you see someone doing something that you love, acknowledge it. Just be like, hey, how do you do that? How do you do that?
Yep.
I got to talk to him a little bit, and I didn't ask him too many questions, but I just thanked him.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. My final thought is, if you don't know what to do and you have no idea where to start the process, breathe. Take a second and breathe and just observe and be aware. We've talked so much, Jessica and I have a whole thing built around awareness and within the perfect day. And it's been like a word that's been at the top of my mind for a long time. There's a really great book called Awareness by Anthony DeMello, which I would highly recommend, that I listen to about once a year. And the whole thing is about awareness. And awareness is about being aware. And being aware is about being present. And being present is about being aware. And being aware is about being present. And being present is about being aware. And being aware is about being present. And being present is about being aware. 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 And being present is about being aware And when I don't know what to do and I'm like, I know I'm expending energy and therefore I'm like limiting my freedom, I just stop and I take a breath for a second and try to observe my thoughts and my emotions and figure out what's true for me or what's an illusion, you know. And there's a lot of illusions out there. There's a lot of things that are going on in our head that aren't true, right? So this has been a
Stories we tell
blast. I appreciate
ourselves.
you guys. What's that, Jessica?
Just there's a lot of stories we tell ourselves about why
Yeah.
things are the way they are, you know.
Yeah, a lot of
So,
it's not true. Thank you. Thanks. Great topic. Thank you.
yeah. Well,
Thanks.
thank you to all of you for joining this conversation, for listening to Big Ideas, where it's a podcast about people, perspectives, and the ideas that shape who we are becoming. If this episode sparked something for you, stay curious, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.